You're listening to the Really Useful Podcast. This is the tech podcast for technophobes. In this week's show, we'll be looking at the Revel ransomware gang arrest, the Ukraine cyber attack. Is Russia to blame? We'll be finding out why Meta is facing a £1 billion class action case. Who is the top of the YouTube rich list? We'll also be learning a bit more about what Reddit is and what game consoles are going to be released in 2022. And you've also got our recommendations. My name is Christian Cawley, and with me this week is Ben Stegner. How are you doing, Ben?
Hello, doing okay. We just had our first, I don't know if big snow is strong enough, but it's not really, it wasn't a huge snow, but we had our first snowfall that laid around the area. So not too bad, but I know people were always freaking out, got to go get your bread and your milk at the store because you're never going to be able to shop again.
Well, you can bake bread, can't you? You really just need to buy a cow and then you're sorted.
That's true. That's a longer term investment for the for many winters to come.
As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we've got a whole load of things to get through this week. We've got our news section. We're going to be talking about Reddit and games consoles, and then we're going to finish the show with some recommendations. Let's kick this off. You are probably aware of ransomware. It's a type of malware that will lock, or in some cases pretend to lock, your computer and encrypt your data until you pay up, get an decryption key, I beg your pardon, and then free your computer and its data. This is a scam that's been going for years now, and one of its most well-known users of this is the Revel Gang. They have apparently been dismantled by Russian intelligence bureau, the FSB. Now, this has come from a bit of left field, really, hasn't it? Because no one's really expected Russia to join in the war against cybercrime, have they?
No, I wouldn't think so. And I remember there were so many cybercrime and ransomware events last year that the REvil one was that. I know it wasn't the SolarWinds one. What were they responsible for again? They were the ones that were selling like ransomware as a service.
Yeah.
Was it the pipeline attack? There were so many last year.
There's so many last year.
Mix them up.
But yeah, they're a big gang. And according to the Russian state news service TASS, they developed malicious software and organized the theft of money from the bank accounts of foreign citizens. The FSB says that it has seized more than 426 million rubles, which is £4 million. And I'm thinking that's probably about $6.5 million. In that, there was £440,000 worth of cryptocurrency. And get this, 20 quote unquote premium cars. So they've obviously been transferring this cash they've been extorting, because ransomware is extortion, into physical assets, which is, that's laundering as well, isn't it? So they've this. If this is legitimate and these guys are being taken down by the Russian authorities and feeling the full force of the law, there's going to be some interesting court cases here.
Yeah, I would think so. Looking at this picture of all the money they seize, this looks like something you see in a movie. when the Joker burns the pile of cash in The Dark Knight, kind of a lot of money. Just looking at all of it right there. Yeah, it's about £4 million. It's about $5.5 million US dollars.
Yeah, it's not to be sniffed at. You get the feeling that there's probably a bit more of it floating around. They must have made more than that. So.
Yeah, I would think if they have it in cars, so some of it was in crypto, so probably how much they had
there's got to be
never
some
really
property
be known, or it won't be known for quite a while.
Yeah. So now that's one side of the coin. On the other side of the coin, we have Russia being blamed for a cyber attack against Ukraine. Now, if you know your geopolitics, you'll probably know that Ukraine and Russia have been at loggerheads for some time since Russia invaded the Crimea, which it has a historical claim to, or so it says. And, we're talking two dimensions. We've got ransomware on one hand and cybercrime, and then on the other hand, we've got basically state actors attacking other states electronically. About 70 Ukraine government websites were knocked down on Friday, and Ukraine are blaming Russia. Now, that's fair enough, but it depends really on the type of attack. And is that a show of strength, or is it just some Russians doing it? It's all very vague. And what does Russia have to gain by knocking out some websites? It's
Yeah, it seems almost like a scare tactic, like just to make you scared, but not really anything behind it. There's the translation of the message here. It looks like the message is in Russian. I'm not too brushed up on my Eastern languages. Oh, it's posted in Ukrainian, Russian, and Polish, and the message says, quote, Ukrainian, all your personal data has been uploaded onto the public internet. This is for your past, your present, and your future. It says the Polish language contains serious errors and didn't appear to be written by a native speaker.
Yeah, Poland also blamed Russia for the hack. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't Russian backed, and I'm not even saying it wasn't Russia. It seems more likely to be the sort of thing that hackers do rather than the actual state of a country. That
Right.
presumably, if they were flexing their muscles, they would knock out gas pipelines and power stations and what have you. So, on the other hand, maybe it's some form of propaganda warning to the people of Ukraine. It's a difficult one to call, but it happens, and it's important to be aware of these things because 10, 15 years ago, you watch a movie like Die Hard 4, and you see these ideas of these cyber attacks taking place, and it feels a little bit far fetched as a possibility may be. But now we're in the time where these things really can happen. As Ben mentioned earlier, we have the ransomware attacks last year, we have the pipeline attacks, and we've got things like this taking place, and it is a new dimension of conflict on all levels, isn't it?
Yeah, there's also that map. I don't know how accurate this is, or if this is a not real data, but like a simulation based on trends. But there's a website called threatmap.checkpoint.com that has a visualization of every cyber threat happening right now.
Right.
It just basically shows where it's coming from, where it's going, and what type of attack it is. So it's crazy to watch that, and I assume it's real time. I don't know how generous they are with the definition of cyber attack, but it is, it's not like this happens like once in a while. I mean, it's pretty much constant to see countries hitting each other and trying to do something. Whether how big it is or not, we're not sure. But
I know you kind of just wish we could kind of like cooperate a bit more rather than all that sort of thing, don't you? But that's where we are with that. Now, are we? It's one of those moments where I think maybe I'm pronouncing this wrong. Is it Meta or is it Meta?
what is it? Oh, Meta.
Yeah, I say Meta. Do
I
you say
was
Meta?
I would say Meta, yeah,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
the word I think of is meta is in the sense of like meta, like something that refers to itself. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a
Sure.
meta joke, I would think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're saying Meta. I've heard people say Meta. We're saying Meta are facing a £1 billion class action case from the UK. Dr. Lisa Lovedale Gormson alleges that Meta, formerly you would call them Facebook, they're the company that runs the Facebook website, abused its market dominance to set an, quote, unfair price for free use of Facebook, that being the personal data of UK users. And she intends to bring the case to a competition appeal tribunal in the UK. Now, this isn't the first time Facebook has been attacked over privacy in the UK and in Ireland. This is quite an interesting new take on it, though. She told BBC News that opt-out cases are specifically permitted at the Competition Appeal Tribunal. As a result, my case is able to claim damages on behalf of the 44 million British Facebook users affected. Unsurprisingly, Meta has rejected these allegations and claimed that people access our service for free, which, in terms of carrying out a cash-free transaction, they do. They choose our services because we deliver value for them and they have meaningful control of what information they share on Meta's platforms and who with we have invested heavily to create tools that allow them to do so. Over in the US Federal Trade Commission was recently given the go-ahead to take Meta to court over antitrust rules. It's not proving to be a good year for Meta, is it really?
Yeah, this is an odd case. This kind of reminds me of a year or two ago. I think it was the European Union. I don't think it was just the UK. But I think it was the European Union that was taking Google to task over, I believe it was Chrome installation
Yeah.
on Android, or it was either that or it was Google search being default in Chrome. And I remember Google using a similar line of reasoning where they say, anyone is free to use whatever browser and search engine they want. People overwhelmingly pick our browser and our search engine because we believe it's the best.
Sure.
That kind of reminds me of this line of reasoning you see here with people access our service for free. They choose our service because we deliver value for them. It is an interesting, like, on the one hand, I'm kind of glad to see these massive companies face a little bit of accountability. On the other hand, it is kind of, it's almost like people are trapped in a prison of their own choosing, you know, like if they
Yeah.
really wanted to leave Facebook, they would, but there's an argument that you can't really leave it because it's so ubiquitous in everyday life and the company makes it so hard to, I don't know, it's tricky.
Yeah, and it's an easy way to communicate with your family and friends and share photos with distant relatives and all that sort of thing as well. And then there's all those. I mean, I don't really like Facebook particularly. I've been in lots of. I used to be far more sort of active on Facebook than I am now. Basically, my Facebook activity now, I've got Facebook open in the background. My Facebook activity now is basically been involved with a couple of writing groups and a few retro gaming groups. And, you know, short of receiving messages from my wife to tuck the children in or put the rubbish out, that's pretty much it, really. I think that's this. I'm not saying that's the same for everyone. I suspect a generation or two older than myself use it a lot more than I do. People in my generation seem to use it a lot less than they did.
Yeah, I think we might talk about this in a previous episode, or this just might be anecdotal from like my friends, but I would say I think like my age, like late millennial, I feel like late almost like the youngest millennials. I mean, I think Facebook kind of is old hat. I
Yeah,
guess like there's so many more modern forms, like they like sharing the short video on TikTok or just the quick pictures of Instagram or the how simple Twitter is
yeah,
compared to Facebook's
yeah,
just kind of feels like a dinosaur, I think, to a lot of us.
yeah. I think
I would
I.
assume, and I would assume that's for the next generation, younger than me. That's even
Oh
more
God,
the,
it's
the
got to be.
case, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I think for my generation, what I'm seeing is just, you know, when it came along in 2007, we were sort of like, whoa, let's have a look at this. This is good. Everyone's interacting with it, and joining in, making friends and everything like that. I mean, I look at my friends list now. I culled it by about at least 50% a couple of years ago, and I have not looked back. It's a lot easier to use. I'm not reading through endless rubbish all the time. I see what I'm interested in and ignore what I'm not interested in, basically. And I think the format of Facebook makes it very difficult to be, I guess, kind of engaged with everything and everyone on it.
Yeah, I
It's just
think
not
most. I
possible.
mean, I don't know how this is just how I speak to how I use other services, but I mean, Twitter, I follow a fair amount of accounts, so it's kind of just open it, take a look, and then leave. Instagram, I don't follow that many accounts, so I can pretty easily keep up with what people are posting, and I feel like I
Yeah.
can open it, scroll to the end of the new stuff, and then that's it. Whereas Facebook just feels like an endless flow of just stuff that's I don't know how old it is, I don't know how relevant it is. It's just there, kind of.
Yeah. So for us in the UK, this could be. I mean, I don't imagine Facebook's going to pay out, and I don't think it's going to be practical for it to pay all 44 million users in the UK. Hopefully, there's some sort of. I mean, if it gets to that stage, then there's some sort of charity that they can contribute to. Maybe the Open Rights Foundation. That'd be good. Um, Concluding the news this week, we have the YouTube Rich List for 2021. Now, if you're not really engaged with YouTube, you probably haven't heard of any of these people. Even if you are engaged with YouTube, you might be looking at completely different part of YouTube and still not know who these people are. So it's been announced that Jimmy Donaldson, the 23-year-old American, better known as Mr. Beast, all one word, was YouTube's highest earning content creator in 2021, earning $54 million US.
That makes me ill.
Oh yeah, I mean his elaborate stunts have generated more than 10 billion views on the platform. That's in for those of us in the UK. That's 39 million pounds. It's just ridiculous. He overtakes 10-year-old toy reviewer Ryan Kaji, who has topped the annual list for the past 2 years. Then you've got people that you may have heard of: Jake Paul, Nathan Graham, also known as Unspeakable. It is mind blowing how much money is in YouTube for these big names. I'm going to go through the top 10, mainly because I like number 10's name, Preston Arsement. Number 9, Logan Paul. Number 8, Dude Perfect, which is a comedy prankster. Number 7, Ryan Kaji. You've probably seen Ryan's World merchandise in toy shops. That's Ryan Kaji. Nastya is a 7-year-old Russian girl with 90 million subscribers. I think my daughter might have watched her as well as Ryan. Unspeakable, number 5. Number 4, Rhett and Link, who is a geek chat show called Good Mythical Morning. Number 3, you got Markiplier, another gaming creator. Number 2, Jake Paul, who branched out into boxing to get himself back into the top 10. I mean, that's commitment. And at number
Yeah.
1, Mr. Beast, who recreated elements of Netflix hit Squid Game on his channel, played hide and seek in an 80,000-seater stadium, and was buried underground. And he has a Mr. Beast burger franchise. Wow.
Wow.
It's incredible, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I've said this before, I think. I love YouTube, the platform. I hate YouTube, the company. Um, and but reading through this list, honestly, the parts of YouTube I like are not this. Um, I only recognize a couple of these names. To me, seeing Rhett and Link on this makes me happy because they are what I think YouTube is, or what it was meant to be. Just two guys that had a funny show. I mean, they've been on YouTube forever. So the fact that they're still at the top makes me happy.
Yeah.
I guess you could say Markiplier's like that too. But like a month ago, I updated an article we had of the top 10 most subscribed to YouTube channels. And at the time, it was a lot. Some of it was like music channels like for Taylor Swift and stuff like that. But now I can't believe how many of the top 10 are just toy review channels, like
Yeah.
little kid, like 5-year-old kids. It blows my mind that they're that popular and they make that much money from stuff like this. I mean, I've never watched a single Mr. Beast video, but I mean, it looks like he only uploads about one video a month, and they're mostly pretty cheesy. I mean, this looks very like YouTube clickbaity to me. So yeah, this is the kind of stuff you see when like you sign in, you open up YouTube's homepage and it signed you out, and you're like, what on earth is on my page here?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm not signed in, and it's not like the stuff I actually want to see. So yeah, this is the side of YouTube I don't really understand myself.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I've seen a few of these things. I've seen Ryan, and I suspect we've seen Nastaya. My daughter, my 5-year-old, she's nearly 5. She has a tablet. She has an Amazon Fire 10 HD, and she occasionally records videos to herself. Now we let her watch YouTube occasionally before school. Once they're dressed and ready and everything, and we just got time to kill, stick something on YouTube, maybe like one of those Nastaya videos or a slime video, or watch Ninja Kids or something like that. And my youngest, she started every time she makes a video on her tablet, she starts off saying, "Hi guys." That's what they all do, isn't it? Hey guys,
Yep.
well, what are you
Every
doing?
YouTuber's
Or what's
gotta have
up?
their opening. Yep.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny. Okay. So we're going to move on now to away from social media to social media. Reddit in particular. Now, I'm someone who has used Reddit. I've used it a lot over the years, but I'm not really someone who spends a particular amount of time in Reddit. I'm sorry to say. It's not that it's difficult to use or anything. It's basically thousands of online forums all under one website, but I kind of got out of the habit of using forums, and then Reddit came along, and it's like, start using these forums. I mean, what is Reddit really? Is it more than just a forum? It's more than just forums, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say it's I think what you said, it's basically a collection of forums is about right. I mean, there's unifying like general guidelines, and the way that they work is the same, like the way that you vote on posts and reply and tag people, like that's all the same. But every subreddit is totally different with its rules and how strict the moderators are and how often it gets posts and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it calls itself the front page of the internet, and it was originally meant for just sharing links to interesting things. Now it's used for a lot more, of course, but yeah, in general, it's just supposed to be a community place to make a community of people that care about something, and then just have them all revolve around that, whether it's something as general as news or as specific as people that love a certain card game or something.
Many years ago, I ran a website about a TV show, and on that site we established a forum, and there was only like 3 or 4 of us running the website, so we thought, let's create some fake users. I see Reddit did this. They obviously had a lot more success with it than I did.
That they had fake users to start, so it looked like there were more.
Yeah, they faked its first users. Yeah.
You do wonder how much of that. I mean, there's definitely stuff now with. I might be jumping the gun here a little bit, but I've done articles on like really terrible Reddit posts that were somehow upvoted really highly, and it does. I think people like Farm Karma, which is Reddit's like points. Basically, they don't. It doesn't mean anything, but if you have high karma, it shows that people have liked your posts a lot.
Yeah.
So I think people definitely like farm karma with cheesy posts that they know will get upvotes, and then they sell those accounts to spammers or brands that want to advertise. If you look closely on Reddit, especially on popular subreddits like Pix, there are a lot of posts that are thinly veiled advertisements. Like someone's like, "Hey, I just published my first book. I'm so excited to be a published author." Like, okay, yeah, you're sharing that you're a published author, but you have the title of your book right in the post. Of course, people are going to go look for it. Stuff like that, like astroturfing, basically like disguising advertising as a general grassroots thing from people. It's kind of nasty.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit cynical, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to be cynical. It blows my mind some of the stuff that people vote up. I mean, there's entire subreddits dedicated to terrible posts on other subreddits, which I enjoy poking fun at.
The great thing about Reddit, I think, is that it's quite accessible to everyone, isn't it? So anyone can post to it. People who are well known can host discussions on there or do those Ask Me Anythings. Lots of people have done those. Barack Obama, probably most famous. I can think of others, but they're not coming to mind at the moment. I can't really think of a big one recently, to be honest.
Well, we can go to AMA and then we can look at the top post in the last year or something like that, and
That's a good
see.
idea. Yeah.
Let's see, top in the past year. Let's see who's done it recently. Let's see. Some of these two aren't necessarily like a big name that you know. It's more like I have this unique job. So the top one in the last year is I'm a lobster diver who recently survived being inside of a whale.
Whoa.
Bill Gates, Todd Howard, the director at Bethesda, um, Vic, a former Amazon driver, Terry Collingsworth, a human rights lawyer who filed a child slavery lawsuit against Nestle.
So it's an eclectic mix, basically, which is what I was saying, wasn't it? It's like anyone can do these things. They've got something interesting to say. They say, I'm going to. You can ask me anything. This is me. This is what I've done. Who I am. Ask me anything, and then it gets scheduled, and then the responses come out after all the questions have been posted, aren't they? That's pretty much it.
Right. It's just a way. It's a way to engage with interesting people. There's also subreddits for like slightly interesting Ask Me Anythings, like people that do some small thing, and they like not as big as this, but still fun.
Yeah. So I mean that's a big part of Reddit. I mean, but it's a good place to find interesting links, interesting facts. There's things that cover everything from. I mean, here I go again. Retro gaming. Sort of inspirational quotes, beautiful pictures to get you in the calming pictures, exciting pictures. There's Reddits for Doctor Who. Is there a Reddit for Make Use Of? I don't know. I feel like there should be.
I'm not sure.
There's Reddits for writers. There's Reddits for script writers. I've referred to those a few times in the past. There's online security Reddits and VPN Reddits. There's Reddits for Linux. There's Reddits for Mac OS. There's Reddits for Windows. There's Reddits for Android. There's Reddits for iPhone. There's Reddits for Audacity that we're recording this on. There's probably a Reddit for Skype. I mean, if you can think of it, there's almost certainly a Reddit for it. There's a dairy-free Reddit. There's a dairy-free recipes Reddit. So, pretty much everything is covered.
Yeah, it's a good way to find. I like two things. I like joining subreddits for topics that I like. Like I love the game Persona 5, so I join that subreddit, and then people post like art and discussions. So I like that. But also, if I'm Googling something and I want like I'm trying to think of an example. Like, is it worth watching this movie, or of these two products, which one's better? That's something I'll frequently just write Reddit at the end of my Google search for, because I like seeing real people discuss something. Because a lot of the time when you Google something and find like a very scholarly review of it, like, yeah, it's useful, but I'd rather just have someone say, yeah, I tried this, or I'm a fan of this game and didn't like this other game. Like, it's a good way to just see normal people talking about what you want to get an answer for.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Ben mentions, all these different categories, they're called subreddits, and you can find them on Reddit. So you go to reddit.com and you can sign up, or you can type /r and then /the topic. It is massive, so it's worth using the search function or just using Google to find the things that you're interested in on Reddit. It's certainly worth being a member, and it's very easy to sign up. If I just click on sign up now, because I'm not signed in at the moment, you can use your email address, or you can use your Google account, or you can use your Apple account.
Yes, I would recommend setting a username that's not. I mean, you can have it tied to your name, but a lot of people on Reddit just like to use some random username that's not connected to their identity at all. And I would also recommend if you make a Reddit account, you probably want to unsubscribe from most of the default subreddits because they're just vile filth.
Yeah.
Basically, the bigger a subreddit is, the more annoying it is. So stuff like pics and funny and politics are all just cesspools of clickbait and it's terrible crap. So I would recommend unsubscribing from most of those and then subscribing to stuff that's actually more interesting to you because there's a lot of it on there.
If you want to check any of the links that we've discussed in this week's really useful podcast, view our show notes. Now, Ben Stegner, you're a gamer. I'm a bit of a gamer. I don't play games as much as I like to. Usually my gaming is either with an Evercade at bedtime for about 5 minutes, or it's Mario Kart with the kids on the Switch. This year, 2022, there are 5 games consoles coming out. Now, they're not... Okay, one of them is, I suppose. But overall, they're not new generation consoles. They're not on a par, apart from this one, with a PlayStation 5 or a Xbox Series X or S. But yet we've got 5 of them coming along, which I think that's kind of quite exciting, that gaming, and given the types of consoles that are coming along, they kind of hit every kind of base as well, I think.
Yeah, it's nice to have, with the Switch being 5 years old this year, wow, and the new consoles being about a little over a year old, the PS5 and the Series X, but still hard to find. It's nice to have some variety during those cycles, especially if you want one of the new consoles and haven't been able to get a hold of one.
What's the deal with the Switch OLED? Is that out yet?
Yeah, that came out in October, I want to say. I haven't really
seen
followed
one
it too
yet.
closely because I'm just not. I play my Switch 99% of the time connected to the TV, so I'm
Right.
not too interested in that. But
Sure.
I think that came out in November. Let me see. OLED model was announced in July of last year, and it released in September
September. I
2021.
still
Yeah.
haven't seen one, which is quite interesting. In the
It says
wild, as
that
it were.
Nintendo reduced the base price of the original Switch model in Europe from 330 euros to 300 euros, and in the UK it went from 280 pounds to 260 pounds.
Right.
But North America and Australia did not get a price cut on the original model.
Okay. Well, we're digressing there anyway. Let's go back to 2022.
Sure.
There are 5 consoles coming along, and this is roughly in order. First of all, we've got the Steam Deck, which is probably the most exciting one for most people. This is essentially a handheld Linux computer that plays PC games, based on the Steam OS, which is a Linux-based operating system that basically integrates the Steam gaming platform into the user interface, into the operating system, and it sort of also loads into that. And then they're doing a lot of work to make a lot of games that weren't previously compatible with Linux to be compatible with Linux. And I think if it works, the Steam Deck could be the thing that properly revolutionizes PC gaming by making it as cross-platform as it can get, meaning that pretty much all games will run on Linux, which is something that Steam have been trying to do for a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Or
would say
Valve
that.
have been trying to do for a long time, I should say.
Yeah, I would say this would definitely maybe the first time that PC gaming has a quote unquote handheld, and it would make it the first time PC gaming is really heavily available away from the computer, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of
Because
like the Game Boy of the PC or whatever you want to say.
yeah, there are a lot of handheld PCs around. They've been going for a few years now, haven't they? With a similar sort of form factor, but none of them have taken off.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just because there's not a ton of, I guess there's not a ton of demand for it. Like, I guess when you think people that like to play games on PC, probably, type of people that spend a lot of money on a nice computer, so they want to play games on that computer and aren't too worried about doing it on the go or streaming or whatever. So that could be why. Hopefully having Valve behind this makes it a better effort. Although we have seen hardware from Valve be discontinued after a few years in the past, Steam controller and Steam Link, which we've talked about. So hopefully this will be their home run in this space.
Yeah. So that's the Steam Deck. We're expecting that to arrive in February. It should have been out in December. It should be coming along in February. I have got my name down for one of you.
I do not, mainly because I don't play a ton on PC, and if I do, I want to be at my computer. So
Yeah,
this
that's
is not
understandable.
quite for me, but I am excited for people who are excited for it, if that makes sense.
Now, following that, in March, on March the 25th, we have the A500 Mini. This is a kind of a sequel to the Commodore 64 Mini and the Commodore 64. You'll notice I'm emphasizing the because it's part of the name. Uh, they are devices, the Commodore 64 ones are devices that are basically have a small SBC, single board computer inside, that then emulates a Commodore 64. The A500 Mini works along the same way, on the same lines, only is loaded with emulation software for the Amiga 500, and also I think I'm right in saying the 600 and 1200 versions of the Amiga. If you don't know what the Amiga is, it's a classic computer that was launched in 1985 and remained in production for around 11 years in various guises. Started off with the Amiga 1000, then 500 and 500 Plus, and the 2000, the 3000, and 4000, and the A600 and the A1200. And there was also a CD version called the CD32, which looked a bit like a Mega Drive CD. And there was also a kind of a CD player version called the CD-TV. I did mention I like retro gaming, didn't I? You can probably see
Yes.
where my heart is there. The Amiga 500 is a great looking little Amiga 500 replica. It's not going to be full size, but it is going to play the games, and you'll be able to load up. It comes with several, I think it's 25 pre-installed, and I'm kind of excited about it. I've actually ordered one as well.
Yeah, this is well before my time, so I don't know too much about any the Commodore or anything like that. As I've seen like videos about a couple of them, so I don't know too much about these. But I just from a purely game preservation standpoint, I do love to see these mini consoles or whatever you want to call them re-releases come out, just because it makes these games much more available and
Yeah.
playable in today's market.
Well, the strange
Um,
thing is about the Amiga is that you can buy old Amigas, original Amigas. They need to be recapped. So if you were to buy one on eBay, you could probably get it. If it hadn't been recapped, it's not going to cost you very much. Probably £100, and then it costs you about £30, £40 to get it recapped, and then you could essentially sell it for 2 or 3 times what you paid for it. But the strange thing is, I mean, if anyone wanted to, I mean, you can emulate an Amiga on a Raspberry Pi or on a PC. But you can actually buy hardware to build your own Amiga based on the original designs. You can get, people produce motherboards. You can get cases that like remakes of the originals with some people actually have the original molds from the original Amiga cases. So it's not necessary to actually do this, but the thing is, and this is what I love about the whole retro thing at the moment, is things like the A500 Mini and the NES Mini and the Evercade. They make it, you don't have to worry about messing around with emulation software, which can be a massive pain and a massive time drain when you're trying to play old games. You just load them up, select the game, and play, which is just what's so great about them.
Right, it's good for collectors. It's good for people that played these games a long time ago but don't have the original hardware. Because a lot of these games, if you want to play them, like you said, even if you bought an old, that's a lot of money to spend on an old system, and then you have to buy old games. So that's a big barrier to entry. Whereas something like this, it's a new system, it connects to your modern TV, and it just works. So yeah, I'm definitely a fan of these happening. I like this says it has upgradable firmware, which I don't think has been the case for Nintendo's mini systems or the PlayStation Mini. So it's nice to see that. And it says it outputs at 50 hertz in Europe, so it matches the original
Yeah.
refresh rate there. It seems.
So that's coming along in March. Later in the year, we have the Astro City Mini 5, or it's not 5, it's V, and it's called V because it is a vertical screen. This is a device from Sega, which is a sequel to the Astro City Mini, and it ships with 37 games. These include titles that were Sega's and some from beyond Sega's own IPs. They've so far released only 22 titles, but you've got things like VV and Raiden, Action Fighter, Zaxxon, Sonic Wings. There's loads of them. That's coming along later in the year. Again, that's a retro device. In television, Amico is another one, which is designed to play older games. It runs on Android and Linux. but I suspect there's going to be a lot of new games for this one as well. The date for this one has not been set in stone yet, but it's expected to be the second half of 2022. And then we finish with the Playdate, which is a device that's been repeatedly delayed since 2020. And this is an unusual system because it has a monochrome LCD, and you can design your own games for it, but it also has a hand crank.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of games consoles. I've never seen a system with a crank. That's
Yeah.
very unique.
Yeah, and I mean, they've demonstrated some of the games that will run on it, and one of the things that they're doing, they're issuing games in seasons as well. So like curated collections of games. You can also sideload games as well. And the crank is it's used for particular. It has a D-pad and two buttons, but also has this crank that you can use for various, whatever the developer envisages the crank can be used for, basically. For games, which is kind of interesting. Now, this isn't really a retro thing because this is for developing new games on, but new games with a very kind of slimmed down monochrome, but I kind of with a sort of a retro aesthetic, I suppose.
Yeah, this looks nice and kind of like a throwback. Yeah, I mean, one black and white screen is old school. Obviously, it's almost like playing games on a Kindle or something.
Yeah.
And the crank has some interesting ideas. I like that the price of the games is included in the system, so it could be fun if you like quick little games. And I see some indie developers that I recognize on here that are going to be making games for this. Bennett Foddy, Zach Gage made Spell Tower on iPhone. I see Lucas Pope, who made Papers, Please and Return of the Obra Dinn. So yeah, there's definitely something to get excited about here. I don't I don't I don't know if I get this. It's interesting. I think that the crank is funny. It's going to be hard to emulate these games years down the road if people ever want to put them on a different system with unique controls like that.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, the Playdate we're hoping to review it and make use of, so keep your eye open for that. Oh, also the A500 Mini, that's getting a review at Make Use Of. I know for a fact because I'm the one reviewing it.
Alrighty.
Which brings us nicely on to our concluding section, which is our recommendations, in which we recall something that we've experienced over the past week, and then we share it with you so you can check it out yourself, basically. Who's going first, Ben? Me or you?
How about you go first?
Okay. So this is one I may have done before a long time ago, but I may not have done. It came up this morning, as I mentioned earlier on in this week's show. Sometimes, if the children have managed to get ready for school and there's time to spare, which, let's be honest, it doesn't happen often, but it happened today. So it was a good opportunity for my son to stick on YouTube. Now, usually he goes for some sort of cryptozoology nonsense or Ninja Kids or something. There's a guy who does kind of Star Wars theory, but he's got a really dull voice. There's a guy called Colin Furze who's like this crazy inventor in the UK, and then there's this magician that he likes to watch called Evan Era, and basically this guy he will demonstrate how to do magic tricks. And there's a whole host of magic tricks of different levels. I do feel that if this guy was in the UK, he would have been disrobed from the magic circle because I suspect he's given away a lot more than he probably should. But
Okay.
I might be speaking out of turn now. I'm not a member of the magic circle, so I don't really have any background on that. But I do know that magic tricks are closely guarded secrets, and he does seem to be sharing quite a lot. But they are fascinating. The way he films them, the tricks, so you can get a proper glimpse of what's going on from the magician's point of view and from the audience point of view. And there's just such a great selection. He's got his own merchandise as well, I think. That's only a sideline. It's the actual tricks on the videos are worth checking out because if you're interested in magic and illusions and card tricks and all that kind of thing, sleight of hand, this is a good place to start off. These are good tricks. So that's my recommendation for this week is the Evan Era YouTube channel. Evan Era TV, I think it's called.
All right. Yeah, might have some more magicians on our hands if people get to watching them.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, so I picked this week a video game I really like called Baba Is You. So it's available on Steam. It's on Google Play and the App Store for mobile. It's on the Switch, and then Steam is available for every desktop OS. So this is I think the best puzzle game ever made, and that might sound hyperbolic, but
Wow.
it's really, really clever.
Okay.
Basically, Baba Is You is a top-down puzzle game where the rules of the level are presented in text blocks. So, for example, wall is stop means that you can't walk through a wall, but you're free to move the words around and change the rules of the level. So, if you break up the sentence wall is stop, you can just walk right through a wall because it's not stop. So Baba Is You means that you control the character Baba, who's a little white sheep. So if you push something else in place of Baba, so like key is you, then you can control the key. So the game starts out simple enough to teach you some basics of how it works, but there are so many levels, so many ideas, and there's not always just one solution. So you can maybe play a level a second time and find another way. There's also challenge levels that remix an older level and make you figure it out again without the solution you tried the first time. It just constantly, it's a huge brain bender. It's difficult, but in a very eureka type of way. Really smart, a ton of levels. And they just a couple months ago released a level editor so you can make your own stages now and share them, which is awesome. So it's a really great puzzle game if you like thinking and figuring things out. And it's also a fun game to play like with two people looking at the screen and kind of working together. I did that with a friend who stayed with me a little bit ago, and we had a good time kind of attacking it from different angles and working through it together. So it's only like $15 on Switch and desktop, and it's phenomenal. So I wholeheartedly recommend it if you're into puzzle games.
And is this on the Switch?
Yeah, Switch, Steam, Google Play, App Store. So it's not on Xbox or PlayStation, I don't think, but it's on everything else pretty much.
Excellent. And thank you for that recommendation, Ben. That looks really cool. I'm going to check that out as soon as I'm not playing on the Evercade or being roped into being beaten at Mario Kart 8 Deluxe again. You've been listening to the really useful podcast, the tech podcast for technophobes from makeuseof.com. And if you've anything to add to anything we've discussed this week, let us know on Twitter or Facebook. We'll be back next time. Until then, it's goodbye.